Hello everyone. I hope you all are doing fantastic. And today, this particular session is the seventh one. Sixth is already covered from the book, the psychology book. And hey everyone, welcome back to Engineering Cubicle, where we break down fascinating historical concepts, especially how philosophy has shaped the world around us uh, and psychology obviously. Today we are diving into evolution of mental health from hysteria to schizophrenia and how these concepts shape the field of psychology and psychiatry. But before deep diving into those concepts, I would like to narrate a story to you, right? That story is all about an actor whose name is Vivek. I mean, just take it as an example of mine or anybody else. So I'll go through that story first, and then I'll give you some idea about the theoretical concepts. Right? So go ahead with me. So what happened? Like once upon a time, there was a curious engineer named Vivek. He loved solving puzzles, especially the greatest puzzle of all, which is the human mind. One night, while walking late in his cubicle, Vivek stumbled upon a mysterious old book. And as he opened it, a magical light surrounding him, and it was pulling him into a time traveling adventure. The next scene is Vivek found himself in ancient Egypt, standing before a group of doctors. They were talking about a strange illness that affected women, causing them to behave oddly. They were crying, laughing uncontrollably, and they were fainting. So, this particular situation is of 1900 BCE. So, Vivek time traveled to that particular time, 1900 BCE, in the ancient Egypt. Now, what happened? What did he see? He saw Doctor One. He said, like, it's the wandering uterus. One of the doctors said very confidently. It moves around the body, causing all sorts of problems. Then I started thinking, the Vivek started thinking, a wandering uterus? That can't be right. Then what happened? Like, Vivek realized that this was an ancient explanation for what they called as hysteria. He knew from his own studies that this idea would change drastically over time. Now, what happened? This is a scene 2, which is like 400 BCE, ancient Greece. So, earlier was Egypt and now it is Greece at the time of 400 BCE. Suddenly, Vivek was whisked away to ancient Greece. He was traveled to ancient Greece, like he used to time travel, right? So, he went to ancient Greece where he met the great physician Hippocrates. What did Hippocrates say? He was busy writing in a scroll. He was recording his thoughts on women's illness. What Hippocrates said, like, I shall call it hysteria because I believe the symptoms come from the uterus. Then Vivek said, like, but is it really about the uterus, or is it something else that is going on in the mind? Then this particular Hippocrates idea, he shrugged and continued writing. Though, though his idea, though his idea would stick around for centuries, Vivek knew more discoveries were on the way. Right. So now this is scene three, which is 19th century. It's all about Paris. So what next? Vivek found himself in Paris, sitting in a crowded lecture hall. A famous doctor named John Martin Charcot was giving a speech on hysteria at the Salpêtrière Hospital. So what did Charcot said? He said like hysteria follows strict laws. It has distinct phases, and we can even use hypnosis to treat it. The symptoms may look strange, but they are real and universal. So Charcot said like it's related to some hypnosis. So he can use hypnosis. he will hypnotize the patient, and then he will treat this particular hysteria disease, right? But Vivek watched as Charcot demonstrated how hypnosis could calm a hysterical patient. He was fascinated, but remembered that not everyone agreed with Charcot, because many thought that his patients were simply acting what Charcot was suggesting to their patients, right? So then Vivek said, like, it's interesting how much power the mind has over the body. But is there more to this than meets the eyes? So in a flash, Vivek was now in the office of Sigmund Freud. So 1895. And now he got to understand, like, Freud is like the famous student of Charcot who gave the hypnotism idea, right? Then Freud was pacing around deep in thought. And Freud said, like, hysteria is just not a physical illness. From this particular phase, we got to understand that it's not a physical, but it's psychological. The mind buries trauma deep inside, and those repressed emotions come out in very stranger ways that we see in forms of bodily actions, right? Freud explained this particular theory, psychoanalysis theory, to Vivek. He shared how talking about the buried emotions could heal the patients. Then Vivek said, like, so it's not the uterus, but the hidden feelings in the mind. That's a huge shift in the understanding. So Freud was the one who told, like, this is not a physical form, so it's not in the uterus, this problem is not present in the uterus, but it's a hidden feeling in the mind. And that was the first huge shift in the understanding of this particular thing. Now it's like late 1800s, where Vivek's journey took him to Germany, where a scientist named as Kraepelin, Emil Kraepelin, was working in a lab. He was studying the brain. Kraepelin was focused on classifying mental illness like schizophrenia. What did he say? He told, like, I believe these illnesses have biological causes. Schizophrenia or dementia precox destroys the connections in the brain, leading to strange behaviors. So what did this particular person said, like, this these illnesses have biological causes. So there are very neural connections in the brain. He told, like, if something is destroyed, the connection is destroyed, it leads to strange behaviors. Then Vivek watched as Kriplin categorized different forms of schizophrenia, from paranoia to catatonia. Catatonia, right? So he realized how far mental health had come, from blaming the uterus to exploring the brain's biology. So, mental illness can be both physiological and biological. It's incredible how much our understanding of the mind has changed. With a flashlight of light, with a final flash of light, Vivek was back into the cubicle. So his time travel journey is now over. The old book still was in his hands. He smiled, reflecting on the journey through his time travel time. From ancient Egypt to modern psychiatry, we have learned so much about the mind, but there are still a lot more to discover. So, Vivek realized that understanding mental health is like solving a complex puzzle. The more pieces we find, the clearer the picture that it becomes. And with that, Vivek returned to his work, ready to share what he had learned with the world. So, particularly, this story simplifies the evolution of mental health understanding by making Vivek the curious explorer who travels through the history. Right now, what I want is you to, understand the theoretical part as well, which is in the book. So, I'll go through that as well. So, it's like scene one, ancient time, the roots of hysteria. How did it arise? So let's start with the roots of mental health treatment, all the way back to ancient Egypt. Around 1900 BCE, the Egyptians had a theory about certain behavioral disorders in women. They call it the wandering uterus. According to the Papyrus, it was believed that women's unusual behavior was due to their uterus moving around inside their body. I know it sounds weird and wild, but this is where the concept of hysteria began. So, once upon a time, like a Greek physician, Hippocrates, was examining a patient. So 400 BC, when Hippocrates, the father of medicine, he is also known as, coined the term hysteria in his book on the disease of women, he believed that certain physical and emotional disorders in women were caused by disturbance in the uterus. Hence the term hysteria, from the Greek word for uterus, hystera. So I think it's totally clear, right? Hippocrates, father of medicine, coined this term hysteria, which is coming from the word hystera. It's a Greek word, and that means uterus. So all the physical and emotional disorder is coming from this hystera or uterus. But in 1800, uh, 100 years later, Charcot, what he said is like hysteria was still a big topic, but one man took it to a new level. Charcot is considered
I
the
didn't get
father.
that. Could you try again?
I'm sorry. So Charcot is considered the father of modern neurology. Working at the famous hospital in Paris, Charcot observed thousands of cases of hysteria and tried to categorize its symptoms, things like fainting, paralysis, and even temporary blindness. So, suppose a woman fainted and she was like dramatically convulsions and she fainted. So Charcot's key idea was that hysteria followed a predictable pattern with distinct phases, almost like a physical disease. He even claimed that hysteria was a lifelong inherited condition triggered by shock. But when Charcot thought he has hysteria all figured out, many of his contemporaries weren't convinced. They thought that hysterics were just acting out behaviors he had suggested during the hypnosis. Then the psychoanalysis phase came with Freud's. Sigmund Freud, he was one of the Charcot's most famous student. Freud was captivated by hysteria and later integrated it into his theory of psychoanalysis. In 1895, he co authored studies on hysteria, where he suggested that hysteria was more psychological than physiological, an idea that created a revolution how we think about the mental health. Freud believed that repressed emotions and trauma were the real cause of hysteria. This was the start of psychoanalysis, the idea that talking through emotions and experiences could heal mental disorders. Could heal mental disorders. A big leap from the ancient ideas of a wandering uterus, right? But the story doesn't end with Freud. Around the same time, one another scientist was working on a different approach. He was a German psychiatrist, Emil Kraepelin. So, unlike Freud, Kraepelin believed that most mental illness were biological in nature. He categorized various mental disorders in his textbook, including one called dementia precox, where we know now as schizophrenia. So, schizophrenia, according to him, had different forms, including paranoia, where patients might feel persecuted, and catatonia, where patients could either be frozen in one position or show excessive movement. He laid the groundwork for how we diagnose and treat schizophrenia today. Today, we know that schizophrenia involves biochemical and structured abnormalities in the brain. Thanks to the post mortem studies that Kraepelin championed, his influence is still felt in modern psychiatry, especially in the way mental illness are classified and treated with medication. So, from ancient ideas about wandering uterus to modern brain imaging and antipsychotic treatments, our understanding of mental health has come a long way. John Martin Charcot, Sigmund Freud, and Emil Kraepelin all played pivotal role in shaping the way we think about the mind and mental illness. So, the mind and body are more connected than we ever thought. We have gone from believing mental illness was purely a matter of physical organs to recognizing the complex relationship between the brain, mind, and body. And as science continues to evolve, who knows where the next breakthrough will take us to. So, what is your one take on the evolution of mental health? Can you comment below? Thanks for watching this channel, and if you found this video insightful, hit that like button and subscribe to Engineer in Cubicle for more fascinating breakdowns of how science and history have shaped the modern world. Don't forget to share your thoughts on how we have progressed in understanding mental health. See you next time. Bye bye. Take care.